Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to USVA SOL Review by Standard. I'm glad that you found the first video useful. I'm glad that you keep coming back and we're doing this together. We're going to get into a standard today that looks like a lot, but it's actually a lot of little things that are just put together, so it should be a pretty quick video today. All right, without further ado, we are going through Standard 3 today, which is the colonial period, but then the economic, social, and political structures of each of those, all the different colonies, and then the continuation of indentured servants and slavery. Okay, so here again is a look into the actual standard itself. So again, the language that you need to know. Okay, and then here is the other part here. All right, let's get right into it. We're going to start with New England's economies, right? So we're talking about the northeastern part of what will become the United States. It's based on shipbuilding, lumbering, fishing, subsistence farming, and eventually manufacturing much later on. Subsistence, this word right here, essentially just means in order to live on. You're not selling it for profit. You're not trading with anybody. You're just growing enough stuff to feed you and your family. The economy is also based on the Puritan, the religious values of hard work and thrift, meaning this is going to help them prosper. By doing hard work and being thrifty, again, this word means to save money and use money wisely. That's going to give them prosperity in New England. The middle colonies, however, are also going to be based on shipbuilding, but also small-scale farming and trade. So they are going to be doing smaller plantations, larger farms, but not big like in the South, enough to be able to trade that stuff to different places in the country and even out of the country. That trade grows cities. Think Baltimore, think Alexandria, for that matter, and New York and Philadelphia in the broader context. So shipbuilding, farming, and eventually trade. The southern colonies you probably know the most about, right? Talking about large plantations growing cash crops like tobacco, like rice, like indigo, and eventually cotton is going to become king in the South, but not till slavery ramps up. Also, a major part of their economy is exports to Europe. On a large scale, they're sending things off to Europe, starting with tobacco. And the inland, more away from the Atlantic Ocean, based on subsistence farming, but then also hunting and trading. So we're talking out west, further into the western frontier, not on the coast at all. Okay. Basically, all this coming together, the differences is based solely on geography, and it's going to influence a spirit of competition and free market in all the colonies, sort of setting us up to become an industrial nation that is different based on where you live, and giving us that competition that drives capitalism in our country. Okay, let's talk about the social structure really quickly. So it's based on those religious values, Puritan values, those people coming, escaping religious persecution in England and coming to America to get their own religion practiced. Puritans become more intolerant of those, ironically enough, who do not follow their religion. So Catholics are going to move out, Jews are going to move out, other minor religions, Christian religions are going to move out as well. Rhode Island is formed based on Puritan dissenters. This word here means those who are getting away from what normal, quote-unquote, normal people do in that area. So if they're not Puritan and they leave, they are called a dissenter. All right, middle colonies is religiously free. Lots of Catholics, lots of a small portion of Jews. A lot of those other religions besides Puritans are going to move into the middle colonies. Like I said, Jews and Huguenots, people from France and New York, Presbyterians in New Jersey, Quakers in Pennsylvania. And this also helps grow a middle class of skilled artisans and smaller scale farmers, not those large farmers, not those traders on the port cities, but the the sort of, kind of a larger than a family farm, smaller than a plantation guys who are making quite a bit of money. Then you have the South. Social life is based on family and land ownership. If your family had a lot of money, it would be passed down, and then you would have a lot of money, and so on and so forth. Also, land ownership. The more land you own, the richer you were. And also the more power that you would have. Most are loyal to the Church of England and the government too. A lot of looking further into the next unit and standard, American Revolution, a lot of loyalists are going to come from Virginia. More inland. Oh, I apologize. That's a mistake there. Okay, let's talk about the Great Awakening really quickly. This is a revival of religion that sweeps across Europe into America, where you have the growth of evangelical religions. Evangelical are those who spread their religion through itinerant preaching, through conversion, through a guy standing up on a pedestal and speaking to the masses. They're really going to try to convert people based on their religion. This partially lays a foundation for the American Revolution, not in a religious sense at all, but to challenge the established order. In this case, religious order, but to challenge that order, because that's essentially what we're going to do with King George and Great Britain. Okay, we'll talk about politics really quickly. In New England, they have Athenian-style democracy. You do need to know those exact words. Athenian-style democracy is that small town hall meeting where everybody has a say. Doesn't matter about land, money, religion, all that kind of stuff. Everybody has an equal say. In the Middle Colonies, it's a reflection of England's political rights, where men have more say, and if you have some land, then you have a say, and things like that. And in the South, it's a representative democracy with rich farmers being elected. I own most of the land in this town, therefore I'm going to be the most powerful man in this town. All right, so this is a continuation on our conversation about indentured servitude and slavery from the earlier unit. Large plantations in the South drove need for cheap and abundant labor force. At first, this is going to be indentured servants, which are poor English, Irish, or Scottish men who would work for a period of time and then get free. And then eventually this is going to force the importation of African slaves. This is going to essentially grow this notion of what we think of slavery today that is based solely on race. African descended people will do the work for nothing once they are bought and purchased, whereas indentured servitude, going back here, are people who are they're working off a debt, they're working off prison sentence, but they eventually become free and can own their own land. Very few African Americans were indentured servants at first, but then were freed and lived as citizens. So they do get those political rights. That did happen, but on a very small scale. Africans were brought over on what was called the Middle Passage, that terrible time where nearly 40% of some ships were killed, died by disease and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so this should look familiar if you were around for Standard 2's video. So again, comparing all three different colonies based with these answers right here. Okay, here are the answers if you need them. I'm not going to stay too long on this. And then here are some SOL questions. These are pulled right from the SOL. If you can answer these questions, then you should be quite all right. So I'm going to pause here for a moment, and then we'll move on to the answers. Okay, and here are the answers. So hopefully you got all four of those correct. And if you did, then you should be in good shape. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for coming back. I know there was a lot of little things, and we're nearing 10 minutes here. But if you stuck around, hopefully you're a little bit more familiar with Standard 3 stuff, basically comparing the colonies to each other. All right, we'll see you again in a very short time.